It started as a normal broadcast, just another late night signal drifting through the static. But what people didn't realize, what no one could have predicted, was that this signal wasn't meant to be received, not by you, not by anyone. It exactly 2:17 a.m. Thousands of televisions across the country flickered to life on their own. No remote, no warning, just a black screen. And then a voice that didn't belong to any station. A voice that whispered, if you are saying this, it's already too late. And then the scream began. The official report called it a technical anomaly, a glitch in the broadcasting system. But people who experienced it, they knew better because this wasn't just a signal, it was something else, something alive. The broadcast lasted exactly 13 minutes. During that time, viewers reported disturbing visuals, distorted faces, endless corridors, shadows moving against the light. Some said they saw their own reflection, but it wasn't mimicking them. Others claimed the voices started speaking directly to them, calling their names, revealing secrets no one else could possibly know. The strange part, no stations ever claimed responsibility. Not a single network had any record of transmitting it. Engineers checked satellite logs, signals towers, emergency broadcast systems, nothing. It was as if signals had come from nowhere or words from somewhere that didn't exist on any map. Authorities quick shut down the investigation, labeling it classified. But that didn't stop people from talking. Online forums exploded with theories. Some believed it was a government experiment gone wrong. Others thought it was a hacked signal, but a small group, a very small group, believed something far more terrifying. They believed the broadcast wasn't sent, it was released. Like opening a door that should have remained sealed. Among those who experienced it was a night security guard named Daniel Reeves. He worked alone in a nearly abandoned office building. That night he wasn't even watching TV, it turned on by itself. At first he thought it was just interference. But then he noticed something strange. The camera angle in the broadcast, it looked familiar. Too familiar, it took him a few seconds to realize what he was seeing. The hallway on the screen was the same hallway the was standing in. Daniel froze. The flickering footage showed the exact layout of his building. Same broken lights, same cracked titles, but there was one difference. In the broadcast, the hallway wasn't empty. There was someone standing at far end. A figure, tall, unmoving, completely dark. Daniel slowly turned his head towards the real hallway behind him. Nothing, empty, silent. But when he looked back at the screen, the figure had moved closer one step, then another. Each movement synced with a faint, distorted breathing sound coming from the TV. That's when the voice returned. Louder this time, clearer. You are watching, but it's watching black. Daniel tried to turn off the television, but the buttons wouldn't respond. The screen glitched violently, and suddenly the camera angles changed again. Now it was showing the hallway anymore. It was showing him standing there, watching the screen. But something was wrong. The version of Daniel on the TV was smiling slowly, unnaturally, and then it spoke. Not the voice from before, his own voice. Don't turn around. Daniel didn't listen. He turned around, and what he saw was never officially recorded. The next morning, his co workers found the building completely empty. No signs of struggle, no trace of Daniel. Just one thing left behind, the television still on, still playing the broadcast, but now the camera angles showed a new hallway, a different building, a different place, and at the end of that hallway stood another figure, watching, waiting. And if you looked closely, you could see its face. It was Daniel, smiling as if he had been there the entire time. By the time authorities quietly sealed off Daniel Reeves' workplace, the story should have ended there. One missing person, one unexplained incident, but it didn't. Because the broadcast didn't stop, it came back the very next night. Same time, 2:17 am. This time, fewer televisions turned on, but the ones that did showed something different. The hallway was no longer empty. There were more figures now, standing at impossible angles, faces stretched, bodies flickering like corrupted video files. And among them, Daniel, still smiling, still watching. But what truly terrified the viewers wasn't what they saw, it was what they heard. The voice had changed. It wasn't one voice anymore, it was many. The voices overlapped, whispering, crying, laughing, all at once. Some people claimed they could distinguish words, phrases repeating over and over. Stay with us, don't disconnect, we can see you now. But then reports started getting stranger. A woman in Ohio said her TV showed her living room live, even though her television was facing the opposite direction. A man in Texas claimed he saw himself sleeping on the couch until the version of him on screen suddenly opened its eyes and started directly into the camera. And then there were the calls. Emergency services across multiple states were flooded with the frantic callers saying the same thing. It's not a broadcast, it's a window. That's when a former broadcast engineer named Marcus Hale stepped forward. He had worked with signals transmissions for over 2 decades, specializing in emergency override systems. According to Marcus, what people were describing shouldn't be possible, not with any known technology. But one detail caught his attention, the timing, 2:17 am. Exactly. Every time. It wasn't random, it was precise, deliberate. Marcus began digging through old archives, frequency logs, records that most people didn't even know existed. And what he found made his blood run cold. 30 years ago, in 1996, there was an experimental project buried deep within a now defunct communications facility. Officially, it never existed. Unofficially, it was called Project Nightglass. Its goal was simple, at least on paper, to create a broadcast system capable of reaching every screen, every device instantly, no matter where it was. A perfect emergency alert system. But according to fragmented records, Marcus uncovered something went wrong during the final test. Engineers reported receiving a written signal, not a echo, not interference, but a response. Something was transmitting back through the system. The logs described it as non-human pattern behavior. The signal didn't follow any known structure. It changed in real time, adapted, learned. And then during the last recorded test at exactly 2:17 am, the system locked itself open. Cameras inside the facility activated on their own. What they captured was never officially released, but a signal line in the report remained. The feed is no more longer one directional. Minutes later, the entire project was shut down, the facility abandoned, all data classified, or at least that's what they thought. Marcus realized something chilling. If the system had been shut down improperly, if that connection was never fully closed, then whatever responded back in 1996 might still be there, waiting, watching, learning, and now somehow it had found a way out, not physically but through the only medium it understood. screens, signals, reflections. That was the broadcast felt wrong. White showed impossible angles. White could see people from places cameras were even pointed because it wasn't using cameras anymore. It didn't need them. Determined to prove his theory, Marcus tracked down the location of the original night class facility. It had been abandoned for decades, buried deep in a remote stretch of forest, far from any city. Against every instinct telling him to stay away, he went there alone. He brought a camera, recording everything. The footage he left behind was later recovered, damaged, fragmented, but one part remained clear. As Marcus stepped inside the decaying control room, every monitor suddenly flickered on at once. Static filled the screens, and then slowly the static cleared. What appeared wasn't a hallway, it wasn't a building, it was the control room itself, live. From an angle behind him, the standing right behind Marcus was something that wasn't there a second ago, watching him, waiting, smiling. The recovered footage cuts sharply, but not before capturing something that should not exist. As Marcus stands frozen in the control room, the camera trembles in his hands. You can hear his breathing, fast, uneven, breaking, under pressure, slowly, almost mechanically. He begins to turn, but the video distorts before he can fully face whatever is behind him. The screen fractures into static, then reforms for just a split second, long enough to show a reflection in one of the dead monitors. Not Marcus, not entirely, something wearing him, but stretched, wrong, smiling wider than a human face ever could. After that moment, the footage ends. Nobody was ever recovered. No official statement was released, but something changed after Marcus entered that facility. The broadcasts, they evolved, no longer limited to televisions. Phones began lighting up at 2:17 am. Laptops, tablets, even devices that weren't connected to the internet. The signals had spread, and this time it wasn't just showing distorted places or unfamiliar hallways. It was showing people's homes, bedrooms, closets, corner of rooms where shadows naturally gather. But the shadows weren't still anymore. Viewers started reporting a terrifying pattern. The longer you watched, the more accurate the broadcast became. At first, it would be slightly off, a chair in the wrong position, a door slightly open when it was closed in reality. But night after night, the differences disappeared until eventually the screen matched reality perfectly. And that's when it happened. Because once the image was perfectly aligned, something inside the broadcast would move, not on your side of the screen, but on its side. A hand reaching out, a face pressing closer, testing the boundary. People tried everything to stop it, unplugging devices, destroying screens, covering them before 2:17 am. But it didn't matter. The signal didn't need a screen anymore. It just used one as a doorway. Some claimed they started seeing reflections without mirrors. Others heard the whispering even when every device was turned off. And then came the disappearances. Quiet at first, scattered, a few here, a few there, but always the same detail left behind, a powered on screen showing a place that looked almost identical to where the person vanished. Almost experts, those few who dared to study it, came to a horrifying conclusion. This wasn't broadcast in the traditional sense. It wasn't even technology anymore. It was something that had learned how to mimic reality by observing it. And every time someone watched, it learned more, adapted faster, refined the copy until the difference between here and there no longer existed. The signal wasn't just showing another place, it was building one a duplicate, a reflection world, growing clear with every viewer. And then the final transmission came. No distortion, no static, just a perfectly clear image. A room, ordinary, silent. The camera slowly moved forward as if walking, passing walls, doors, familiar objects, until it stopped in front of a screen. And on that screen was you, watching, not as a recording, not a delayed, live, perfectly synced. And then, just like before, the version of you on the screen began to smile, wider, slower, raw, and it whispered in your own voice, we don't need the signal anymore. Because the time you realize what the broadcast really was, it's already finished. It was never meant to be watched, it was meant to be watch you, to learn you, to copy you. And now it doesn't need the screen to reach you. The last broadcast wasn't the beginning of something, it was the end. The moment the barrier disappeared completely. So if your screen ever turns on at exactly 2:17 a.m., don't look too closely, don't try to understand it. And whatever you do, if you see yourself on the other side smiling back at you, just remember one thing, that might not be your reflection anymore.